This show is part of One Place, a daily network of focused briefings across the stories people follow most.
Welcome to today's Roundup. We have a packed episode for you today, starting with the harrowing release of police dispatch audio from the shooting at Rihanna's Los Angeles estate. We'll follow that up with a deep dive into the suspect's messy legal past, including a previous domestic violence arrest. Then, we explore the heartbreaking reason why Britney Spears refuses to hire a chauffeur despite her recent legal troubles. Later, Paul McCartney shares a surprising theory Yoko Ono had about John Lennon, and a celebrity surgeon weighs in on Brad Pitt's youthful looks. We also have Rachel Zegler addressing the Snow White backlash, Margot Robbie's stunning Paris Fashion Week appearance, and a behind-the-scenes look at that viral Bridgerton dance. Finally, we'll discuss Quentin Tarantino's heated response to Rosanna Arquette and Conan O'Brien's eerie prediction about the death of late-night television. Let's get into it.
First, we're looking at the terrifying moments following the shooting at Rihanna's home. The LAPD has released dispatch audio that gives us a chilling first look at the police response to the shooting at Rihanna's Los Angeles home last Sunday. The audio captures the rapid-fire communication between officers and dispatchers as they worked to identify the suspect's vehicle. In just 3 minutes, you can hear them pinpointing a white Tesla Model 3 with paper plates and tracking its direction as it fled the Beverly Crest area. It's a stark reminder of how quickly these high-stakes situations unfold, especially considering that 10 rounds were allegedly fired at the residence while Rihanna was reportedly inside.
It really is a testament to the training of those dispatchers, hearing them coordinate and confirm the tag number so efficiently during such a chaotic ordeal. While we know that Rihanna, a $AP Rocky, and their children were thankfully unharmed, the sheer violence of an assault rifle being fired at a family home is just unthinkable. The suspect, identified as 35-year-old Ivana Lizette Ortiz, is currently facing attempted murder charges with a massive $10 million bail. It's a relief that the police were able to zero in on that Tesla so quickly, but the psychological impact on the family must be immense.
Now let's shift to what we've learned about the woman behind this attack.
As more details emerge about Ivana Lizette Ortiz, the woman charged with the shooting, we're seeing a very troubled legal history. Long before she allegedly targeted Rihanna's home, Ortiz was involved in a disturbing domestic violence incident in Orlando back in June 2023. According to police reports, she was arrested for battery after an argument with her ex-husband during a custody drop-off. The details are quite grim. She reportedly sent threatening texts saying she was throwing punches and then lunged at him in front of their daughter. The police report even noted that the young girl was crying to the point of hyperventilating, which is just heartbreaking to hear.
It seems there was a pattern of escalating behavior. Beyond that domestic violence charge, she was also arrested just 3 months later for violating her pre-trial release conditions. There were also reports of her posting concerning messages about Rihanna and other celebrities on social media before the shooting occurred. It raises so many questions about the warning signs that were present. When you combine a history of violence with obsessive social media behavior, it creates a very dangerous cocktail. She's now being held on that $10 million bail, but the legal system will have to figure out exactly what led a woman from Florida to target a global superstar in Los Angeles. Next up, we have a different kind of legal trouble involving a pop icon. Britney Spears is back in the headlines following a DUI arrest last week, but the story taking hold now isn't just about the legal fallout, it's about why she refuses to hire a chauffeur. For most people in her position, hiring a driver would be the obvious move to avoid further trouble, but insiders say for Britney, driving is symbolic. After 13 years of being told where she could go and what she could do under her conservatorship, being behind the wheel is one of the few ways she feels she has reclaimed her autonomy. One source mentioned that she doesn't want to be driven because it feels like a return to being managed and controlled.
It's a complicated situation because while you can understand the emotional need for freedom, there are also practical safety concerns. Some sources close to her have admitted she's never been a particularly great driver, and a DUI is a serious matter that puts others at risk. However, when you consider that she wasn't even allowed to close her own bedroom door or take a private bath for over a decade, you can see why she clings to the steering wheel as a badge of independence. She's scheduled to appear in court in May, and it'll be interesting to see if the judge imposes any driving restrictions that might force her hand on the chauffeur issue.
Moving on to a legend of the music world and a long-held secret.
Paul McCartney has been reflecting on his life with the Beatles in a new documentary, and one of the most surprising revelations involves a conversation he had with Yoko Ono shortly after John Lennon's death. According to Paul, Yoko actually suggested to him that John might have been gay. Paul's response at the time was skeptical. He told her he didn't think so, noting that they had spent the 60s surrounded by women, and that he had never seen a gesture or expression from John that suggested he was attracted to men. It's a fascinating glimpse into the private conversations that happened within that inner circle after such a monumental tragedy.
Paul did admit he'd heard the rumors, specifically regarding John's relationship with their manager Brian Epstein, who was gay, but he maintains that he never saw anything personal happen between them. It's also interesting to hear Paul talk about his own reputation during this time. In the documentary Man on the Run, he admits that for a long time he actually bought into the criticism that he was the one who broke up the Beatles. He describes himself as being overbearing and says that hearing people damn him made him agree with them. It's rare to hear a legend of his stature be that vulnerable about his own legacy and the guilt he carried for decades. Now let's shift to a discussion about Hollywood's most famous face. Brad Pitt is 62 years old, but he somehow looks like he hasn't aged a day since the 90s. Dr. Terry Dubrow, the famous surgeon from Botched, recently shared a theory on why Pitt looks so good without looking weird. Dubrow suggests that Pitt has a feminine beauty to his features, comparing him to his look in Legends of the Fall, where he was prettier than the female leads. The theory is that men with these types of features can undergo feminizing plastic surgery like facelifts, and it looks natural on them, whereas more traditionally rugged men often end up looking distorted after similar procedures.
It's an interesting take, especially since Brad has never actually admitted to any work. Dubrow also pointed out that Pitt's sobriety and recent lifestyle changes have likely played a huge role in his skin quality and overall look. We started seeing these rumors really pick up during Wimbledon in 2003, when he looked remarkably refreshed in the stands. Whether it's a masterfully done facelift or just incredible genetics and a clean lifestyle, he's definitely the gold standard for aging in Hollywood. Dubrow mentioned other pretty guys like Rob Lowe and John Stamos, who seem to have that same advantage, where cosmetic tweaks don't look out of place on their faces.
Next, we have more drama surrounding a Disney live-action remake.
Rachel Zegler is opening up about the intense backlash she's faced since being cast as Snow White. In a new interview with Harper's Bazaar UK, she described it as a confusing time, noting that she was told she wasn't Latino enough for West Side Story, but then told she was too Latino for Snow White. The trolling was so severe that she even faced threats to her safety. Despite the film being a box office disappointment and the constant criticism of the woke changes to the story, Zegler is standing her ground, saying she refuses to assimilate for anyone else's comfort. It's a very bold stance for a young actress in the middle of a media firestorm.
There's also been a lot of talk about a rift between Zegler and her co-star Gal Gadot. Fans noticed that Zegler recently unfollowed Gadot on Instagram, which many believe stems from their differing views on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Gadot actually addressed the film's failure recently, suggesting that anti-Israel sentiment might have played a role because people saw her as an Israeli first and an actress second. Zegler, on the other hand, has been very vocal about her own mental health and how therapy has helped her navigate the superstardom and the vitriol. It seems like the production was plagued by controversy from every possible angle, from Peter Dinklage's comments on the Seven Dwarfs to the cancelled London premiere. Now, let's head to Paris for some high fashion and movie milestones. Paris Fashion Week is in full swing, and Margot Robbie absolutely stole the show at the Chanel presentation. She debuted a chic new bob hairstyle, moving away from her signature long blonde locks, and wore a sheer white vest that had everyone talking. This appearance comes at a perfect time for her, as her latest film, the gothic romance Wuthering Heights, has just surged past $150 million at the global box office. It's being called one of the biggest theatrical surprises of the year, especially for an R-rated adult drama. Margot and her co-star Jacob Elordi have been on a massive promo trail, and it's clearly paying off with audiences.
The success of Wuthering Heights is really impressive, especially considering it had an $80 million budget. Director Emerald Fennell seems to have a hit on her hands. Jacob Elordi actually spoke recently about the steamy scenes in the movie, explaining that they were choreographed with the same technical precision as a fight scene or a dance sequence. Back in Paris, Margot wasn't the only star at the Chanel show. She was joined by Lily Rose Depp and even Kylie Minogue, who looked incredible in a cream, silky lace cord. It's a huge week for the Big Four fashion schedule, and Margot Robbie is clearly the woman of the moment, both on the runway and at the box office.
Next, we're diving into the world of the ton, with some secrets from the latest season of Bridgerton.
If you've been on social media lately, you've probably seen the viral dance from Season 4 of Bridgerton. Director Rain Harris recently broke down how that moment with Hyacinth and Gregory came together. She admitted she was surprised it became the breakout hit of the season, but she knew the music, covers of Charli XCX and Billie Eilish, was special. Harris wanted to create a safe space for the young actors to step into the spotlight as their own lead seasons approach. She even mentioned seeing people doing the choreography in grocery stores now, which shows just how much the fans have embraced the growth of the younger Bridgerton siblings.
The director also gave some fascinating insight into the intimacy scenes between Benedict and Sophie. She described the Mistress Ask earlier in the episode as a moment where Benedict just didn't get it right, and she wanted his love confession to feel like a full surrender. Harris, who is a bisexual woman, said she focused heavily on power dynamics during their steamy scene, wanting to show Sophie and Benedict as true equals. She even made sure that Sophie was the one who made the final walk toward him during the confession, to emphasize consent. It's that level of detail, like having the characters maintain eye contact while undressing, that really sets this season apart and makes those romantic beats land so effectively. Now let's turn to a heated exchange between two Pulp Fiction veterans. Quentin Tarantino is not holding back in his response to Rosanna Arquette's recent criticisms. Arquette, who played Jodie in Pulp Fiction, recently said she couldn't stand Tarantino's frequent use of the N-word, calling it racist and creepy. Tarantino fired back with a letter accusing her of a decided lack of class and questioning why she's trashing a film she was originally thrilled to be a part of. He suggested her comments were cynical and aimed at getting publicity. It's a very public and very sharp breakdown of the esprit de corps that Tarantino says is supposed to exist between artistic colleagues.
Arquette's perspective seems to be tied to her overall negative experience with the industry at that time. She's claimed she was the only person who didn't make money on the back end of Pulp Fiction, blaming Harvey Weinstein for punishing her professionally after she rejected his advances. So, for her, the film represents a period of professional hardship. Tarantino, however, seems to view her critique as a betrayal of the work itself. It's a complicated clash between a director who views his scripts as untouchable art and an actress who is looking back at that era through the lens of the Me Too movement and the systemic issues she faced. This definitely isn't the last we'll hear of this feud.
Finally, we look at a grim forecast for the future of late-night television.
Conan O'Brien is sounding the alarm about the survival of late-night talk shows. In a recent interview, he predicted that these shows are going away and will eventually transform into something else entirely. He pointed toward Malig forces intervening in the industry, which many believe is a reference to the changing ownership at networks like CBS. This comes on the heels of Stephen Colbert's show being canceled, effective May 2006. Colbert has been a vocal critic of the current administration, and there's a lot of speculation that his cancellation was politically motivated, especially after Paramount settled a lawsuit with Donald Trump over a 60-minute story, which Colbert famously called a big, fat bribe.
The pressure isn't just hitting CBS. Jimmy Kimmel's show was actually suspended for 6 days last September after pressure from the FCC chairman, an appointee of the president. The chairman threatened to revoke ABC's license over jokes Kimmel made about a right-wing activist. It's a chilling time for comedy when government officials are actively targeting late-night hosts for their material. Conan's point seems to be that as these networks try to curry favor with political figures, the independence and the very nature of these shows are being eroded. If iconic platforms like The Late Show and Jimmy Kimmel Live are under this much pressure, the landscape of television is going to look very different in just a couple of years.
That's all for today's roundup. It's a lot to process. From the safety of our biggest stars to the future of the media we consume every night. We'll be back tomorrow with more updates on these stories and the new headlines breaking across the world. Make sure to follow us so you never miss a briefing. I'm host.
And I'm host. Thanks for joining us on the Daily Roundup. We'll see you next